Don't be too excited. They're going to get real drunk, and the script's going to be a.
I'd love to read the script high. That must be amazing.
I am.
Very nice.
I watched Tom was pretty much high when he wrote it anyway, so. Hi, that must be amazing.
I am.
Can you hear me?
Very nice.
I watched Tom was pretty much high when he wrote it anyway. Pretty much high when he.
Hello, and welcome to Scripts Gone Wild. A wonderful.
I watched Tom was pretty much high when he wrote it.
Like somebody's got it echoing in the background. Hello, and welcome to Scripts Gone Wild.
We're in a loop.
Yeah,
We're trapped.
just feel it. Just keep it going.
Someone have the YouTube on in the background.
Maybe me. Hold on.
Wild.
Oh yeah.
Just
Hold
feel
on.
it.
Hold
Just
on.
keep it
I'm
going.
Zoom bombed.
Drink. You got a drink.
This thing is like driving me crazy here.
Just feel it.
How? What do we do?
Sorry.
What do we do?
Guys, who's got it on? Someone's got the YouTube link on. Oh wait, it left. Someone muted.
John
worked.
Cale's Fright Night.
There we go, guys. Thank you. Welcome to Perpetual YouTube Loop. My name is Billy Ray Bruton. I am the host of Perpetual YouTube Loop. Actually, that is not true. This is Scripts Gone Wild. It's Wednesday night. Thank you for being with us. We hope you have your drinks poured and your wallets open. We are reading one of our favorite films tonight, Fright Night. That's super exciting for us. And we're even more excited tonight because we have a couple of folks here involved with the film that we want to talk to at the top here. We've got the writer-director of the film, Mr. Tom Holland.
Hello.
And,
Chat, yeah. Thanks for doing it.
and we have Billy Cole himself, Jonathan Stark.
Hey.
Thanks for being here, gentlemen. We appreciate you popping on to talk to us.
Happy to do it.
So what was the first thing you thought of when you heard that someone was going to drunkenly stumble through this script?
Pretty much what we did in the actual filming, didn't we, Tom? We were all drunk most of the time.
No, I don't think so. But anyway, I thought it sounded like great fun, and I love Frank Dietz and known him for years.
Yay.
Well, me too, Tom. You're awesome.
So I'm curious. This film now is 34 years old. Is that right?
I think it's the 35th anniversary this August.
Yeah.
Did you have any clue when you were shooting this that 35 years later it would be what it is? I mean, at this point, like, I know as an 80s horror fan, I don't know any 80s horror fan that doesn't hold this movie up sort of in the top echelon. I mean, hell, there was even a remake of the film a few years ago. Is this what you thought was going to happen with this little vampire movie back in 1986?
It never occurred to me. I'll be right back to you. Hold on.
Got a phone call. I'll cover for him.
Busy, you know.
He's actually on the phone. I love that.
His agent.
As I told you guys earlier, I think that we had no idea this would ever. It was just fun. We just had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
There he is. Thomas back.
This is a little bit of like what Fright Night was like being made.
great, and it's very authentic. We're good.
So you want to answer that question?
Give it to me again.
Did you ever think the movie would have?
No. But this was before. I never thought they did sequels until Psycho 2. I mean, it was unimaginable that a movie, and I guess this movie could last that long. I mean, I don't know. Movies have been pretty much like a disposable culture in a way. Name me the Academy Award contenders for 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think what's happened to Fright Night is it's become intergenerational. I think it's like it's horror for the family for 3 generations. You know that I've run into that a lot where their kids have been introduced to it by their parents or their grandparents.
Tabitha, I introduced Tabitha to it just 2 nights ago.
There you go. Yeah. It doesn't happen with Child's Play.
How old is Tabitha?
Well, she's right here.
Oh, hello there, dear.
All right.
She's old enough. She's old enough.
Okay.
Yeah, she's old enough, definitely.
So-
And you watched Child's Play too the other day, didn't you? Yeah. So
Oh,
she's
gosh.
my daughter.
Very good.
Um,
How old?
I'm 19.
19.
I'm curious. Are there? What is? Give us a good Fright Night set story that people haven't heard 1,000 times before.
Oh,
You'd probably know
God.
better than me.
Well, Jonathan came up with the cross and got me a laugh in the scene in the house with a cop.
Oh,
I mean, that Jonathan was just terrific. It was the
Yeah.
Groundlings, was inventive.
I remember we had a wonderful script supervisor named Mavis Gerard, and it was my first movie. So after every take, I'd go up and say, Mavis, did I suck? Was I horrible? And she was so nice. She always go, no, you're wonderful. And I thought after a while, she was probably just lying. So I didn't believe anybody, and I thought I was going to be horrible. But we did laugh a lot. We laughed all the time on that set. We would be laughing to the moment, and Tom would go, all right, you guys, come on, stop laughing. Let's roll. But Chris is one of the funniest guys I've ever met, and Bill Ragsdale and Amanda, and they're just hysterical.
It was a wonderful experience. It was just amazing. And we were all so young, we didn't know how wonderful it was.
That's pretty.
But,
amazing.
I mean, there's a comedic idea at the center of Fright Night, I mean, the idea of a teenage horror fan becoming convinced that the next door neighbor that's a funny situation. So there was always humor in there, and the cast was able to play it for real and for humor. It was just great. And no, I'm totally amazed that we're talking about this 35 years later. I cannot believe it. I'm thankful.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for popping on here and being with us. I want to let you guys get to your YouTube watching.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We appreciate it so much. And the reason that we're here is we are raising money for an incredible charity, which we've raised for quite a few times now, Black Lives Matter.
Yay.
And given the events of just the last couple days, it seems like it's never out of style to raise money for this charity. It's never going to be. And if the last couple days have taught us anything, it's that we should be seeing it still plastered everywhere we can. So please go to our website, scriptsgonewild.com. There is a donate tab at the very top that is going to take you directly to the Black Lives Matter donation portal. Please donate however much you can, whether it's $1, $10, as I like to say, $1,000. In the little box there where it says, are you donating for anybody? You could, if you want to put Scripts Gone Wild, put Scripts Gone Wild there. We always like them to know that the money is coming from us when it is. Just donating, that's the important thing. And if you can't donate, if you're like, I can't really swing it this month, that's also cool. Just spread the word on social media. The Black Lives Matter needs as much exposure as possible. So tweet it, Facebook it, whatever you can do to help. Welcome everybody.
Yay!
Yay! We're super excited you're all here. Frank, why don't you introduce everybody for us?
Oh, sure. Be happy to. Well, and by the way, thank you, all of you guys that I'm about to introduce, for being available tonight. Really appreciate it. This is one of my all-time favorite movies, written by such a dear friend, and it means a lot to me. So I'll start down at the bottom, at least where my Brady Bunch thing is set up here. Jonathan Goldstein is with us. Shawn Woodward, Alexis Iacono, Alex Marshall Brown, Clay Keller, Liesel Hanson, Andrew Parks, Bo Foxworth, Jonah Ray, and, well, Billy Ray Bruton, of course.
Hi.
And me.
So a lot of you guys are regulars. Some of you are first timers. So I'm going to go over the rules for the folks at home. For those who don't know, Scripts Gone Wild is a drinking game. If you flub a line, miss your cue, do anything that we can construe as a mistake, and we have a very broad definition of what constitutes a mistake, you have to take a drink. We have our Twitter audiences choose social words. Anytime these words are read by you guys in the script, it doesn't matter if Frank reads it. It's got to be you guys, one of the characters. Anytime these words are spoken, everybody takes a drink. And those two words tonight, I'm very sorry, are vampire and Charlie.
Oh,
We also have what we call a finish your drink line that our Patreon subscribers choose. This is a line that when it's read aloud in the script, everybody finishes whatever drink is in their hand, whether it's a fresh pour or just a couple of sips. And that line tonight is welcome to Fright Night for real.
I voted for "Oh, You're So Cool, Brewster," but
It was one of the options, but it overwhelmingly won, I believe.
Well,
So do we have a refill period or?
No, it's kind of every man for himself on the refill period. And the goal is to get to the point where you can't refill because you're too wobbly.
The bar's pretty far away.
Yeah.
I
Anybody have any questions?
I forgot about a lot of these wonderful booze-inducing rules, and I might need to, before we start, go and get, I don't know, a couple 40 ounces before we get started.
I think you should get whatever you need to make it through this read.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yes. I don't think Billy comes in for the first few pages anyway.
yeah.
So if no one has any questions, Frank, I'm turning it over to you, our illustrious host for the evening, and take us there.
All right, cool.
woo, woo, woo.
Welcome to Fright Night. I'm not going to say it. All right, Fright Night, written by Tom Holland and adapted for Scripts Gone Wild by me. Exterior full moon night. Clouds obscure the starless heavens for a moment, heavy and ominous in the black firmament. Then suddenly they clear, exposing a full moon streaked with red, like a killer's face, a stalking moon, staring down at the man's evil on earth below. A howl breaks the night. How about a howl? A wolf pursuing its prey, perhaps, or perhaps something much, much worse. Voices break the perfect stillness.
What was that?
Just the child of night, Jonathan. Come, sit here beside me on the veranda.
It's chilly out here.
Oh, no, it isn't. It's beautiful. I love the night so.
Rancho Corvallis, a middling-sized town lost somewhere in the Southwest, the lights of its 60-some thousand residents twinkling like so many Christmas lights in the night.
I've never seen you so beautiful before, Nina. So pale, so luminescent, so...
Yes?
Your lips are so red.
Are they? Would you like to kiss them?
It's a typical middle-class suburban street full of pre-World War II houses, the substantial places they built then, 2- and 3-story homes with attics and basements, porches, and detached garages. All right, already.
Drink.
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 There is the sound of a long, drawn-out kiss as Jonathan and Miss Nina's lips meet. The Dandridge house, so different in look and feel from all the other houses on the street. It's huge, almost foreboding. Its windows dark and vacant. Its lawn overgrown and weed-infested. A home that has obviously been untended for a long time, unlived in and uncared for. However, the for sale on the lawn has a sold sign just beneath it. The Brewster house is next door. It's in sharp contrast to the Dandridge house. Newly painted, its lawn neatly shorn, a house almost dwarfed in comparison to the Dandridge house, but a happy home, its windows lit and smiling out warmly at the night. The voices are coming from the Brewster house, specifically from a dark second-story window that is open to the night breeze.
Why are you looking at me so strangely, Nina?
Not you, Jonathan. Your neck. Has anyone ever told you it was beautiful?
No.
Come, lay your head on my breast.
In Charlie's bedroom night, it's one of those AIP hammer horror films that's on the television. A woman, obviously a vampire, talking to one of those vapid juveniles used so much in these films. The two of them standing on the veranda to some huge old house. The young man rests his head against her breast, incredibly enough, unaware that she is bending toward his neck with these huge fangs. Just as she is about to sink them into his jugular, a tall, what's that word?
Soldering.
Soldering.
Drink.
I know.
Drink.
Yeah, I could have cut the word out of the script. Out of the darkness, wearing a rather daffy Victorian suit and carrying a stake and mallet in his hand. His name is Peter Vincent.
Stop, you creatures of the night!
The vampiress leaps to her feet, her hapless intended victim forgotten. She faces Peter with a hiss, her fangs sparkling in the moonlight.
Who are you who interrupts my nightly feeding?
Peter Vincent, vampire killer.
He rushes her, the stake held high to plunge into her breast. Charlie Brewster and Amy Peterson, 2-year-olds, on the floor to the far side of the bed, wedged between the bed and the window, making out like crazy. As he tries to slip his hand under her blouse, she catches a glimpse of the TV. The horror movie has faded out to be replaced by the interior of a local TV studio. A tacky graveyard set, the centerpiece, the visage of Peter Vincent, now older, rising out of the papier-mâché coffin.
Drink. This is Peter Vincent, bringing you Fright Night Theater. Tonight's journey into horror is Blood Castle, one of my favorites, and for a very good reason. I star in it.
Charlie, totally oblivious to the TV, works on Amy's bra, trying to get it undone, obviously something she doesn't want. She tries to distract him.
Charlie, Peter Vincent's on.
Oh, forget Peter Vincent.
But, I mean, you love him.
But I love you more.
Behind them, the station break segues into a commercial. A bunch of kids singing and dancing joyfully to a Coca-Cola commercial. On the floor, Charlie finally gets Amy's bra undone. That's it for her. She twists away.
Charlie, stop it.
He doesn't listen. Going for her again, their finger fighting behind her back. She suddenly
Charlie
away. Fingers. Yeah, it was a. I'll take a
Charlie,
look.
I said stop it. It's like, how many drinks is that already? Like
give
4?
me a break, Amy. We've been going together for almost a year, and all I hear is Charlie, stop it.
Stare at each other angrily, and then they look away, staring at the TV for lack of any better place to look. The horror movie is on again. Peter Vincent and Jonathan now carrying a coffin across a fog-swept cemetery.
I'm sorry, Amy.
Both of them stand by the open window, staring at each other.
Me too. I'm just scared, that's all.
He nods understandingly, touched by her honesty and innocence, his basic decency winning out over his lust. Suddenly, she steps into his arms, kissing him as she never has before.
Let's go to bed.
You mean it?
Arms again and kissing him. Charlie glances out the window over Amy's shoulder, and he freezes. There, below in the side yard, he sees 2 shadowy figures carrying what looks very much like a coffin toward the storm doors to the Dandridge house next door. His mouth drops open as Amy slips out of his arms and into the bed, unaware of what he's saying. She starts to take off her blouse. Charlie no longer looking at her, his gaze glued to the weird scene out the window. She lays back on the bed, looking up at him, waiting for him to join her. Waiting. There's no him in there. Waiting for him to join her. That's on me.
Charlie, I'm ready.
Amy, you are not going to believe this, but there are 2 guys in the yard below. I think they're carrying a coffin.
Hold on, Mr. Park there.
Charlie, I still said I'm ready.
Drink, Clay.
All right, let me.
Oh, why does Amy keep having double lines? All right.
Because you need to hear what she says.
let me back up just a little bit because this is important. He ignores her, grabbing his binoculars from the desk, whipping them to his eyes and focusing in on the figures below. They're too dark to make out clearly, but they are Jerry Dandridge and Billy Cole. errant beam of moonlight hits the large oblong object, and Charlie gasps. Beautiful piece of work, huge, ornate, incredibly old and bound in brass.
Charlie, I said I'm ready.
Amy, you are not going to believe this, but there are two guys in the yard below. I think they're carrying a coffin.
Amy looks at the horror movie on the television.
Sure. And they're on the moors, right?
Amy, I'm serious.
So am I. Do you want to make love or not?
Charlie is still peering through the binoculars, the two figures below having gotten the storm doors open and now carrying the coffin into the basement of the house next door.
Amy, quick, come here. You've got to see this.
All he hears is his bedroom door slamming shut. He whirls to find Amy gone.
Amy?
Stairway, living room, night. Charlie hurries down the stairs after her.
Okay, maybe it wasn't a coffin, but I did see two guys carrying something into that house.
I don't understand you. First you want to make love, then you don't.
The bottom of the stairs, only to have a voice from the living room stop them.
Amy? Charlie? What's wrong?
They turned embarrassed. Charlie's mom, Judy Brewster, sitting in the living room watching the 10 o'clock news on the downstairs TV with a magazine on her lap. She's a young 40, pleasant looking and warm.
Have you been having a lover's spat?
No, Mom, nothing like that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Right here it says divorce rate is 76% higher among couples who don't argue before marriage.
Mom, we're in high school.
Oh, yes, that's right. Well, it never hurts to plan ahead. So tell your mother I said hello, will you, Amy? And remind her we're playing bridge at her house this week. I'm bringing the cheese puffs. She's making the dessert.
Yes, Mrs. Brewster. Good night, Charlie.
Yeah, good night.
He's no longer listening. He's moving toward the window and staring out the house next door. There are lights on now. Behind him, Amy turns back to his mother.
Well, good night, Mrs. Brewster.
Good night, Amy. And thanks for helping Charlie.
Drink, did we miss one before? A Charlie or a few
all the Charlies.
All the Charlies. I might have missed like 10 or 15 Charlies at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Charlie.
Yeah, come on. Oh, yeah, that's my bad too. I should have been in that.
I didn't miss it.
Come on, Billy Ray.
We were just in the moment. We were in the moment.
With it, on it. Me? Anytime. See you tomorrow, Charlie.
He hardly hears her, staring out the window. Amy turns and stomps out of the room, the front door heard slamming behind her a moment later.
Charlie, that wasn't very nice. Not walking Amy to the front door.
Mom, there are people next door.
Oh, the new owner must be moving in.
What new owner?
Didn't I tell you? Bob Hopkins told me he finally sold the place.
To who?
I don't know. Some fellow who fixes up houses, he said, supposed to be attractive too. Anyway, I just hope whoever he is, he knows what he's getting into with that house. It's going to take a lot of work just to make it livable.
On the television, the local begins to air.
And now for the local news. A man was found murdered on the railroad yards. Details are awaited notification of next of kin.
High school hall day. I knew to get it in for somewhere, I knew it.
Stupid.
Kids are floating.
Oh,
Are flooding into the classrooms, the bell having just rung. Charlie comes out of one of them, holding a test paper and looking none too happy about it.
The bastard. Why didn't he tell us he was going to spring a pop quiz?
Another kid comes right out behind him, holding a test paper with a big A+ on it. He is Evil Ed Thompson, and he's tall and thin with a terrible complexion and a personality to match.
That's the point to a pop quiz, Brewster, to surprise you.
Charlie glances up at that moment to see Amy walking by.
Hey, Amy.
She keeps right on going, disappearing into the crowd. Evil Ed throws a look at Charlie and cackles.
What's wrong? She finally find out what you're really like?
Buzz off, Evil.
Call me anything you want, only you're the one failing algebra, not me.
Another high-pitched laugh, he walks off, leaving Charlie staring at Amy miserably. Resolved to Brewster and Dandridge house day. Charlie pulls his red 68 Mustang into the driveway. He gets out carrying his school books and heads for the front door. Just as he bends down to pick up the evening paper on the walk, a cab pulls up and a beautiful young woman gets out. Charlie stops cold. She is definitely one of the most spectacular girls he's ever seen. Obviously sexy, cheap around the edges, but no less spectacular for it.
Is this 99 Oak?
No. Next door.
She nods her head, thanks, and walks toward the next door house, the one where he saw the two men carrying what looked to be a coffin into the basement. He watches the girl disappear into the Dandridge house, whistling appreciatively under his breath. He turns for his own front door. Brewster House kitchen. Charlie enters the kitchen and finds his mother preparing dinner. He hands her the evening paper.
Thanks.
Charlie stops by the kitchen sink, staring out at the Dandridge house as his mother goes back to fixing dinner.
Mom, have you seen the new guy next door yet?
No, but I did hear he has a live-in carpenter. With my luck, he's probably gay.
No, I don't think so.
Why? What do you know that I don't?
Oh, nothing. Gotta study. See you later.
Study? You?
Dissolved to Charlie's bedroom later that night. He's hard at work at his desk, really into his algebra, when over his shoulder a light comes on behind the drawn shade of the bedroom window of the house next door. Suddenly, a woman's scream, high-pitched and terrified, shatters the night. Can you get a scream? Okay. Charlie whirls, sending his books crashing to the floor, staring out at the lit window in the house next door. The light snaps out, darkness blanking the entire wall of the Dandridge house. Charlie just stares at it, trying to repress a shiver. Dissolve to mall, fast food.
Wow, Frank.
I got a long way to go too.
Yeah.
Charlie sits at one of the tables of the fast food joint, almost falling asleep face down in his cheeseburger and fries as he tries to study. A soap opera is playing on the TV mounted to the wall. Suddenly, Amy slips in beside him.
Hi.
Hi. Look, I'm really sorry about the other night.
Oh, it's probably not my fault, but it could be yours.
It was? Look, Amy, I love you. I never want to fight with you again, okay?
Okay. God, I'm just so glad that we're getting this straightened out. I've been just miserable the last 2 days, and you don't know what it's been like. It's
over her shoulder. He suddenly sees that the TV has gone to the local news. A picture of a girl who looks very much like the one he saw going into the Dandridge house the afternoon before on the screen. He is suddenly no longer listening or looking at Amy.
Charlie. Charlie, are you listening to me?
Drink, Charlie.
Oh, Charlie. Charlie.
He gets up abruptly and walks away, leaving her sitting there staring at him. He stops below the TV, staring up at it.
Cheryl Lane, a known prostitute, was found murdered this morning. The badly mutilated corpse was found under the North Creek Bridge by the old mill. Police have no leads at this time.
Evil Head steps up, staring at the screen along with him.
You know what I heard on the police band last night?
What?
That wasn't the only murder. It's the second in 2 days. And get this, both of them had their heads cut off. Can you believe it?
You're sick.
Charlie.
Charlie.
Drink.
Drink.
Oh, God, guys.
Turns, mashes his cheeseburger into his face, whirling on her heel and stomping off. All of the kids are looking and laughing.
You're so cool, Brewster. I can't stand it.
Charlie ignores him, staring after Amy as she disappears into the elevator. Dissolve to Brewster House Day. The Mustang pulls into the drive and disappears into the garage. A moment later, Charlie appears, walking toward the back door, the Dandridge house next door looming over him. He slowly stops studying it, then sets his books down and heads for the side yard between the two houses. He walks to the storm doors, stopping above them, looking down at the handles. The Dandridge house is seemingly deserted. He bends down to grab the handles.
Hey, kid! What are you doing?
Charlie jerks back, startled. There stands Billy Cole, mid-30s, large and intimidating, with a menacing smile on his face. Charlie backs away.
Nothing.
See that it stays that way, kid.
Billy disappears around the side of his own house, leaving Charlie staring at him, suddenly covered in a cold sweat. Dissolve 2, Charlie's bedroom night. All right, this is a long one.
You got it. You got
Charlie
it.
has the house next door staked out. He sits in a chair before his window, all of the lights off in his room, only the flickering TV to keep him company. It's Peter Vincent on Fright Night, another one of his films on, this time the volume turned off. Charlie holds his binoculars in his hand, staring at the dark window of the house next door, waiting. Later, the TV is just flickering snow now, the channel having signed off hours before. Charlie sits still in front of his window, but he's sound asleep. He opens his eyes to find himself staring at the lit window of the bedroom next door. There is no drawn shade now. He can see clearly into the room, and a beautiful teenage girl with long blonde hair stands there, framed in the window, slowly taking off her blouse. Charlie rubs his eyes, unable to believe what he's seeing. She drops the blouse to the floor. Charlie gulps, fumbling for his binoculars. He gets them to his eyes just as Jerry Dandridge steps out of the shadows behind the girl. He's 30 maybe, almost beautiful with alabaster skin and chestnut hair. He stops behind the girl, effortlessly removing her bra and revealing her bare breasts. Ooh. He sweeps her hair back, exposing her tender young neck. He slowly leans down as though to kiss her. As Charlie watches, Dandridge's upper lip slowly begins to pull back, revealing just a hint of fangs, long, razor sharp, and sparkling pearly white in the moonlight. Suddenly, Jerry stops, the fangs poised just above the girl's throat. He raises his head, staring out the window and into Charlie's bedroom, as if he can see the boy watching him. With an involuntary gasp of terror, Charlie steps back into the deeper darkness of the room. Jerry Dandridge slowly reaches up and pulls down the shade, cutting off all view into the room. Cut to Judy's room, night. He bursts through the door to find his mother sound asleep in her bed. He grabs her, shaking her awake.
Mom, you've got to get up. I can't believe what's happening next door.
What? What are you talking about?
He has fangs. The man who bought the house has fangs.
Oh, Charlie, I have to be at work at 7 tomorrow.
Drink. We got a drink.
Charlie.
A car door slams in the yard next door. Charlie jumps the window, peering out just in time to see Billy Cole walking away from a shiny new Cherokee Jeep, its back door open. Charlie whirls and dashes out of the room.
Charlie?
Dandridge's house, backyard, night. Charlie slips through the back door and through the darkness into the adjoining yard. There, among a clump of bushes, he crouches down, watching the black Jeep. Suddenly, the back door of the Dandridge house opens again, and Billy comes out carrying a large bundle in a plastic trash bag over his shoulder. Billy dumps it in the back of the Jeep and slams the door. Suddenly, there is a terrific whoosh through the air over Charlie's head, the beating of large wings above, causing the bushes around him to bend and sway. It's almost as though a huge bird or a bat just swooped over his head from the top floor of the Dandridge house. Charlie peers about in the darkness just in time to see the shadow of a man step out of the darkness no more than 10 feet away. It's Jerry Dandridge, nonchalantly taking a bite of an apple.
Here, you forgot this.
He glides toward the Jeep, tossing Billy a woman's purse. Just then, the back door of Charlie's house bangs open. Judy Brewster stands there in the doorway.
Charlie!
Drink.
Dandridge and Billy Cole freeze, turning to the Brewster house, staring right at the bushes where Charlie is hiding. Dandridge takes a step forward, his eyes probing the darkness suspiciously. He takes the apple and tosses it at the bushes. It rolls to Charlie's feet. There are unmistakable fang marks in the apple. Terrified, Charlie suddenly leaps to his feet and races back into his own yard, disappearing through the back door with his mother. Billy steps forward to follow the boy, but Jerry puts out a restraining hand, stopping him. Dissolve 2, Brewster House kitchen, night. Charlie sits at the kitchen table, his mother putting a cup of hot cocoa in his hand.
Here, drink this.
Mom, I don't need hot cocoa. I didn't have a nightmare. They did kill a girl over there.
He feels his forehead, checking for fever.
Charlie, how late did you stay up studying?
Oh my God, Mom, I'm not sick. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm not sick. The guy did have fangs and a bat did fly over my head, and then Jerry Dandridge stepped out of the shadows. You know what that means, don't you?
What?
He's a vampire.
Frank.
A what?
Amy's house kitchen day. Amy staring at him with much as his mother did, with a look of shock and total disbelief on her face.
A what?
A vampire, damn it. Haven't you listened to anything I've said?
Charlie,
Fuck's
is
sake.
this some kind of trick to take me back?
Forget it. I'm calling the police.
Charlie, you can't go to the police with a story like that. They'll lock you up.
Drink.
All right, then. I won't tell them it's a vampire.
Drink.
Oh.
I'm sure as hell going to tell them about the two women.
Charlie.
He slams out the back door, leaving her staring. Worried sick. I hate your Patreon people.
They're smart. Your
Twitter.
Patreon people
Twitter.
are clever.
I actually love them, but right now, not so much.
Oh, God.
Welcome to Dandridge House Day. A police car pulls up. Charlie in his red Mustang behind him. He gets out, walking to meet Lieutenant Detective Lennox, a serious man in his early 40s. He hitches his pants, staring at the teenager hard. That sounds terrible.
You sure about this now?
Charlie nods and follows the cop towards the house. Andrew's house stairway day. The knock reverberates through the silent house. Billy Cole appears, staring through the curtain at Charlie and the detective standing on the porch. He opens the door.
Yes.
Mr. Dandridge?
No, I'm his roommate, Billy Cole.
Lieutenant Lennox, homicide. Mind if we come in?
No, not at all.
Steps back from the door. The house is a mess of cardboard, moving boxes, and heavy Victorian furniture scattered everywhere. Clocks line one wall, none of them working, all set to 6 p.m.
Is there anything I can help you with?
There was a murder last night. Charlie
Oh.
lives next door and thinks he saw the victim in this house.
That's impossible. I was here with Jerry all last night. Nobody else in this house.
That's a lie. I saw him carry a bag out in a fuck. I saw him carry her body out in a plastic bag.
What do you say to that, Mr. Cole?
The kid's crazy, officer. I did take some bags out last night, but they were, full of trash. Here, let me show you.
He leads them into the living room, which is a massive packing crate, boxes, and furniture. He holds up a plastic trash bag stuffed with wrapping paper. Charlie notices a painting half covered by packing straw. He looks closer. It's a vintage portrait of a woman who is the spitting image of Amy.
Ooh.
Amy?
See, yeah, we're in the process of moving in.
The bag I saw had a body in it, not trash.
Did you actually see the body, Charlie?
Drink.
No, but...
Okay, look, let me take you out back. I'll show you the bags I put in the garbage.
Okay. Let's see them.
They follow Billy out of the room when Charlie, increasingly desperate, stops him.
Look, I can prove he's lying. Let's look in the basement instead.
What's down there?
Billy turns and shoots an intense look at Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. What's down there?
Charlie meets the big man, finds his tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth. The seconds tick past. Billy turns to the lieutenant with a smile.
Obviously, The boys made a mistake, officer.
A coffin! That's what's down there. A coffin. I saw them carry it in.
What?
Yeah, and you'll find Jerry Dandridge in it, sleeping the sleep of the undead.
Ooh. What are you talking about?
He's a vampire!
Uh-oh!
He's a vampire! I saw him in that room last night. He had fangs, and he bit her on the neck.
Oh, for Christ's sake, Charlie, come on!
No, no,
Whoa.
no.
Let's throw in the next Charlie. He grabs Charlie and rushes him to the front door.
But
no buts.
Andred's house exterior. Lennox drags Charlie out onto the porch.
Sorry about this, Mr. Cole.
Anytime.
Smiling, Billy watches as Lennox hustles Charlie away.
But I tell you, Jerry Dandridge is a vampire.
Drink. Sure. And I'm Dirty Harry. Now you listen to me, kid. If you... If I ever see your ass down at the station house again, I'm throwing it in jail. Forever!
He hops in his car, slamming the door behind him as Charlie hovers by the window.
Lieutenant Lennox, please, listen to me.
And on that note, the YouTube people would like Clay to drink.
Yeah.
That's generally a punishment, though.
Mm-hmm. And
Lennox ignores him, roaring away in a cloud of burning rubber. He hears the porch door of the Dandridge house open behind him and whirls to find himself staring at standing on the porch, looking back. There's something very unpleasant in the big man's eyes, like murder. Charlie glances down at his wristwatch. It's 4 p.m. The sun overhead is beginning to sink. He looks back at Billy Cole. The man is smiling at him now, reading his thoughts. Charlie leaps into his car and takes off down the street. Cut to Evil Ed's bedroom day. Evil Ed sits at his desk, hand painting a monster model of a ghoul.
Yes.
One of these. Of a ghoul, as Charlie bursts through the door and skids to a halt before him, breathing hard.
Evil!
Evil's room is a veritable
drink.
Evil's room is a museum of horror movie posters of Frankenstein and the Wolfman dotted the wall. Shelves full of monster models, the floor littered with horror comics.
And to what do I owe this dubious pleasure?
Vampire
Drink.
knows what I know about him. Or at least he will when he wakes up tonight.
What are you talking about?
I've I think this is a typo, but this sounds very British. I've a vampire living next door. And he's going to kill me if I don't protect myself.
What?
Look, Evil, I haven't got time to explain. Just tell me what to do to protect myself.
Very funny, Brewster.
I am not kidding. Evil, please, just tell me what to do.
Why should I help you? And don't call me that.
Look, I've got $8. Tell me what to do and it's yours.
Ed stares at the money for a moment and then sweeps it into his pocket.
Far be it from me to turn down a fool's money. Where and when do you expect this vampire to attack?
In my bedroom tonight.
Ooh.
Ed pulls a dime store across from his desk.
Start with this. Of course, you have to have faith for it to work. Then get some wolfsbane.
What?
Yeah, forget it. Get some garlic. Links of the stuff you can wear around your neck and hang from your window. Then if he comes for you, that'll be the way. Then, of course, there's holy water, but you need a priest to say a blessing over it first.
That's all?
I'm afraid so. Of course, they can change into wolves and bats at will, and I don't know what you do about that, but your best protection right now is that a vampire can't enter your house without being invited by the rightful owner first.
You're sure about that?
Right. Positive.
Got to Charlie's bedroom night. Charlie steps back to stare at his window, finished last. He's done the best he can, filling it shut, strewing it with garlic, his chest of drawers shoved in front of it, partially blocking it. Across Evil Ed gave him sit on his desk. He tests the window. It's secure. His mother calls up to him from the portico below.
Charlie, come down here. Sorry. Charlie, come down here, please. There's someone I want you to meet.
Brewster living room night. Feeling secure, Charlie bounces down the stairs and walks into the living room to find his mother standing there, a drink in her hand.
Yeah,
Mom?
Charlie, this is our next door neighbor, Jerry Dandridge.
Drink.
Jerry Dandridge. The best
Hello, Charlie.
smiling at Charlie.
Oh, fuck.
Son Charlie, extending his hand.
Well, shake hands, Charlie. There's no reason to be rude.
Charlie reluctantly shakes Jerry's hand. Jerry just keeps smiling.
What's he doing here?
Oh,
With your
Skip that.
mother's kind permission,
No.
of course.
no, that's not. That shouldn't be there. Sorry.
No, don't let them know my mistakes.
I invited him over for a drink.
You what?
I invited him over.
What's
Why?
the matter, Charlie? Afraid I'd never
Please.
come over without being invited first? You're right, quite right. But of course, now that I've been made welcome, I'll probably drop by quite a bit. In fact, anytime I feel like it. With your mother's kind permission, of course.
Of course, Jerry.
Yes.
You're welcome anytime. It's so nice. Someone interesting has finally moved into the neighborhood. It's so dull around here. I mean, how many nights can you play Trivial Pursuit, right, Jerry?
Right, Judy.
Charlie watches this scene, backing across the room, terrified. Judy looks at him. He's ghost white.
Charlie,
Oh,
are you right?
Yeah, fine. I've just got to get back to my trigonometry. That's all.
Nice to meet you, Charlie. See ya. Soon.
Unseen for Judy, he looks directly at Charlie and winks at him. Charlie whirls, bolting out of the room and pounding up the stairway out of sight. Resolve 2. Master bedroom night. Judy, that's Judy's room. Judy is sound asleep. A light breeze wafting curtains, her partially open. Okay. I sabotaged myself because I should have bought these the sleeping mask.
Damn proofreader.
Sleeps fitfully in his chair, his door locked behind him, his window barricaded with his desk. He holds the cross evil gave him in his hands. Suddenly, the shadowy outline of what might be a huge bat swoops the window outside, followed by the beating of mighty wings. A second later, something heard landing on the roof with a heavy thud. Charlie sits bolt upright in his chair as he hears it. Then he hears what sounds like footsteps walking across the roof. Judy's bedroom. Jerry Dandridge stands above Judy, staring down peacefully in her bed. The window behind him is now fully open. Jerry leaves, closes the door behind him, and with a sharp tug, dislodges it from its hinges, wedging it tight against the frame. Charlie, hearing a squeaking noise, clutches his crucifix and walks cautiously out into the hallway. He tiptoes down to the living room. To his relief, he finds that the noise, that's also
Noise.
That's
Noise.
script.
Noise.
Script takes a drink.
that the noise is just a tree branch in the window. He returns upstairs. In his room, Charlie shuts the door and walks to the window. He sees the light go out in the Dandridge house and sighs in relief. He hears a noise and turns. Jerry Dandridge stands before him. Charlie screamed, but the vampire, no, not me. That's right, only if you guys say it. The vampire grabs his throat, stifling it.
Now, we wouldn't want to wake your mother, would we, Charlie? Then I'd have to kill her too, right?
tosses the boy across the room, sending him crashing into the closet door. Jerry picks him back up by the neck.
Do you realize the trouble you've caused me spying on me, almost disturbing my sleep this afternoon, telling policemen about me?
Slams Charlie against the wall, pinning him.
You deserve to die, boy. Of course, I could give something that I don't have. I could give something that I don't have, a choice. Give you something I don't have, a choice.
Nailing it.
Forget about me and I'll forget about you. What do you say, Charlie?
Charlie pulls the cross from his pocket. Jerry grabs it, gripping it until it drops to the floor. He shakes his head in disappointment.
Fool.
Jerry pulls Charlie to the window. He opens it with just a flick of his finger and prepares to throw the boy out onto the sharp fence post below. Charlie struggles to break free. His hand finds a coffee mug filled with pencils. He grabs a pencil and shoves it into Jerry's hand. The vampire, no, not me, screams in pain, releasing Charlie. Smoke rises from the wound and Jerry's face starts to transform into something unearthly. His fingernails become sharp talons. His teeth rows of razor-sharp fangs. He pulls the pencil from his hand and turns to Charlie, snarling like a rabid animal. Just then, Judy can be heard banging on her jammed door.
Charlie! Charlie! My door is stuck!
Jerry changes back to his human appearance, snarls again at Charlie and retreats to the hallway, disappearing through the window. Judy finally manages to get her door open.
Charlie? What is going on?
I just had a nightmare.
Oh no. You know, I had one last night. I was at this white sale and I was standing at the counter and I reached for my credit card only to realize I was naked as the day I was born.
You hear a loud crash outside, the sound of metal and glass breaking.
What was that?
Nothing, Mom. Just the raccoons in the garbage again. Why don't you go back to sleep?
What about your nightmare? Do you want a Valium?
I'm fine now, honest. Good night.
Well, I do need my sleep. I start the night shift tomorrow, you know.
Yes, Mom, I know. Now, good night.
Charlie retreats to his room and puts on the television. Scars of Dracula with Christopher Lee is playing. Charlie's phone rings. Nervously, he picks it up, not saying anything.
I know you're there, Charlie. I can see you.
Charlie slowly turns, staring out his window. There in the window next door stands Jerry. To his ear. Billy kneels at his side, solicitously bandaging his injured hand.
What's the matter, Charlie? Scared? You started this, Charlie, but I'm going to finish it. I just destroyed your car. But it's nothing compared to what I'm going to do to you tomorrow night.
Harry smiles at him and hangs up. On the television, Fright Night is playing. And once again, your host, Peter Vincent.
Good evening, horror fans. Did you know there are a lot of people that don't believe in vampires?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Plural. They're plural. But I do, because I know they exist. I have faced them in all their guises, man, wolves, bats, and I have always won. That's why they call me the Great Vampire Killer. Now, watch me do it.
The screen cuts to a scene from the movie as he prepares to stake a female vampire in a coffin.
Oh, Peter, go!
Peter drives the stake home and blood splashes across his face. Charlie watches in Cut to studio parking lot day. Peter Vincent comes out of the studio dressed in his street clothes, moping toward his car. He's in his 50s and by nature very theatrical, but at this moment in time also depressed. Charlie jumps out from hiding and hurries toward him.
Mr. Vincent, could I talk to you a minute? Please, Mr. Vincent, it's terribly important.
What do you want me to sign?
Pardon me?
Well, you want my autograph, don't you?
No, no, sir. I was curious about what you said last night on TV. You know, about believing in vampires.
Well, what about it?
Were you serious?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, none of your generation seems to be.
What do you mean?
I have been fired because no one wants to see vampire killers anymore, or vampires.
I'm not doing
either.
Oh man, thank Christ he doesn't know Charlie's name yet.
Jesus.
Apparently, all they want are demented madmen running around in ski masks, hacking up young virgins. Now, if you'll excuse me.
I believe in vampires.
Peter stops, smiles, and pats Charlie on the cheek.
Charlies don't come from him. That's nice. If only there had been more of you, perhaps my ratings would have been higher.
In fact, I have one living next door to me. Would you help me kill him?
Pardon me?
You know the murder of that girl that happened a few days ago?
Yes.
Well, the guy who lives next door did it. And he's a vampire.
Dun, dun, dun.
Drink.
Is this your idea of a joke? Well, I am not amused.
Charlie grabs the arm and Peter glares at him.
Mr. Vincent, I'm not joking. I'm deadly serious.
He pulls away as if a little worried now. He loads his belongings into the trunk of the car, which include, by the way, didn't put in there his props from his vampire movies. Go.
If you'll excuse me.
Mr. Vincent, you have to believe me. I'm telling the truth. You just said you believe in vampires.
And I.
Oh, shit.
Now, leave me alone.
Please, you have to listen to me. The vampire...
God.
Fuck.
Oh my
this.
God.
Billy Ray, you could have stopped this at any time. The vampire tried to kill me last night. It trashed my car. When he didn't succeed, he'll be coming back for me tonight, and if I don't get help, he's going to kill me.
Peter shoves him aside, hopping into his car, quickly locking the door behind him, obviously terrified of Charlie. As he starts the engine, Charlie beats on the window.
Ah!
Wait,
This
is
is
Peter, but this seems like a Charlie line.
This is the writer thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Vincent.
Mr. Vincent, no, please, wait.
But Peter drives off, not looking back. Cut to Brewster House Day. Amy rides up on her moped just as Evil Ed starts up the front walk toward Charlie's house. She dismounts, looking at him.
What are you doing here?
Me? What about you? I thought you just dumped him.
What I'm doing here is none of your business.
You do like him.
Amy and Evil Ed approach Charlie's room.
Anybody home?
They enter Charlie's bedroom and gasp at the sight. The room has been transformed from a normal, happy kids room into an armored camp for a vampire assault. The window is nailed shut. Strands of garlic, at least hung from the curtains. Dime store crosses and crucifixes are everywhere in every imaginable shape and size. Charlie sits in the middle of the room on the floor, whittling a stake from a slat of fence, a hammer by his side.
Wow, what's all this for?
Self-defense. Not that I think I'll need it. He'll be dead before nightfall.
Who will be?
Dandridge. I'm waiting for the guy he lives with to leave. Then I'm going next door. I'm going to find his coffin and pound this through his heart.
That's murder, Charlie.
You can't murder a vampire, Amy. They're already dead, remember?
Charlie, you're acting crazy.
Oh, God. Here was a terrible choice. I don't have any choice, Amy. The police won't listen to me. My mother thinks I'm crazy. You two, even Peter goddamn fucking Vincent thinks I'm nuts.
You actually went to Peter Vincent?
Yeah. Dandridge has got to be stopped. Listen, I just taped this.
He goes to the stereo Dolby tape deck.
Amy, what are we gonna do? This is just like Fright Night.
Now for the 2 o'clock news. Another body of a young woman was discovered early. Let's try that again. Going live. Another body of a young woman was discovered early this morning in back of the Sheraton Mall.
See that? I don't have any choice. Somebody has to stop him.
Charlie, it's going to be dangerous into the house alone, isn't it? I mean, you're going to need all the help you can get, right? Somebody like Peter Vincent, for instance?
Yeah.
I tried him already.
Well, why don't you let us try again before you do
Enough time,
anything?
Amy.
Okay, well, what happens if you go into that house alone and he gets you? Well, who's going to stop him then?
Yeah, then he'll be able to suck his way through this entire town. Not that it would be much of a loss.
Charlie, it'll be dark soon, and you don't want to go into that house then, do you?
No, you're right there. All right. Try him again.
Great. Now, you promise you won't do anything until you hear from us, okay?
Charlie nods, and Amy and Evil head for the door.
Amy, you don't believe me, do you?
I love you, Charlie.
He turns and hurries out of the room. To Dandridge House Day, Billy calls the window, peering through the curtain at Amy and Evil Ed as they hurry out of Charlie's house and start down the street. He glances at his watch. It's 4 o'clock. Another good 2 hours before dusk begins to fall. Cut to apartment day. Pete lets himself into his efficiency apartment, carrying a handful of mail. The place is small but neat, the walls dotted with posters from his various movies, all in the horror genre, stretching back at least 3 decades. Peter goes through the mail. There are bills and more bills, many marked last notice, one of them in order to vacate this apartment within 3 days for failure to pay rent. Suddenly there is a knock at his door and he goes wearily to answer it. He opens it to find Amy and Evil Ed standing there.
Yes?
Could we talk to you for a moment, Mr. Vincent?
I'm afraid now is not the best time.
Oh, please. It's terribly important.
He sees the desperation in her eyes. He steps back, closing the door behind him and following them in the room.
Now, what can I do for you? An autograph or an interview for your school newspaper?
I'm afraid this is much more important.
Oh, really?
I know that you're a very busy man, Mr. Vincent, but we're trying to save a boy's life.
Well, yes, I see where that could be more important. Would you care to explain yourselves?
You remember a fruitcake kid named Charlie Brewster? He said he came to see you?
No.
He's the one who thinks a vampire is living next door.
Oh, yes. You know, he's insane. Yeah, I hope it's not a friend of yours.
She's got the hots for the creep.
Watches and smacks Evil Ed, making him yelp.
Yeah.
We need your help to stop him, Mr. Vincent. You see, he really does believe that his next door neighbor is a vampire. He's planning to kill him.
Yeah, with a stake through the heart.
Are you serious? My dear, your friend needs a psychiatrist, not a vampire killer.
Please, Mr. Vincent.
I'm afraid not, my dear. You see, Hollywood beckons. I've been offered a starring role in a major movie. So even if I had not quit Fright Night, so I'm...
No, I'll hire you. I'll give you money.
How much?
I have, I have $500 in a savings bond.
I'll take it. Now, how are we going to cure your little friend of this delusion?
I've got it all figured out. We all go next door to the neighbor and you run kind of a vampire test on him and pronounce him human. You know, like in Orgy of the Damned, where you look in the... okay, all right, okay, hang on one sec. I'm gonna drink, but then whoever transcribed this is gonna drink. Whoever transcribed this is gonna drink with me, and I'm gonna read it exactly as written. All right, let's drink first. Frank. Where you looked in the didn't have a knew he was a mirror, and the guy reflection and then he was a vampire. Boom, baby. I said what I said. You know.
That cut and paste sometimes messes you up.
Where you looked and it didn't have a it's all out. I laid it all out there.
You finished.
He really did.
He blamed.
What was the last thing you said?
Should I do it again? All right. You know, like in Orgy.
Just do the very end. I've been following.
And then you knew he was a vampire.
Ah, yes.
Ah, yes.
Ah, yes. That was one of my favorite roles. Do you know that I still have the prop?
Pulls out a silver cigarette case and flips it open. The inside of the lid is a mirror. He suddenly snaps it shut and slips it into his pocket, looking up at them.
Okay, I want to stop just for a second since we're at the halfway point and encourage everybody watching, if you haven't already, please make a donation to our charity tonight, Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Please do.
Black Lives Matter.
You can go to scriptsgonewild.com, click on that donate tab. It's going to take you directly to their donation portal. Please make a donation as much as you can spare. Or if you don't make a donation, Jerry Dandridge is going to come through your window tonight and suck your blood. And I hope somewhere out there, Jonathan and Tom are not too horrified as to what we're doing to their beloved Fright Night.
I'm preparing the lawsuit right now.
I could every line I can feel Jonathan judging me on my performance.
So yeah, make a donation. Back to the action.
Okay. Dandridge House, evening. All the clocks on the wall tick, signaling stop. And Jerry is awakening. The phone rings. Billy appears down the hall from the kitchen. He picks it up.
Yes.
Bye. Billy turns and stares up.
You can't not.
Slowly walking down the steps, yawning.
It's for you.
Yes, this is Jerry Dandridge. I see. Yes, of course. I'm always willing to help young people, but I'm afraid crosses wouldn't do. You see, I've been reborn recently.
Peter's apartment, Evil Ed cups his hand over the receiver and turns to Peter as Amy watches.
He's a reborn Christian. He thinks crosses would be sacrilegious.
Ask him how he feels about holy water.
Well, how about holy water? Won't do it either.
Tell him it'll be just ordinary tap water. And all he has to do is take a sip.
Jerry's house.
Yes, that sounds fine. Only don't come over till 6 tomorrow. I'll be out until then.
He slowly hangs up and turns to Billy.
It seems we won't have to go out tonight after all. His friends are bringing him over tomorrow night to prove to him that I'm not a vampire.
They both smile. Resolve to Charlie's bedroom night. Charlie sits in the dark, a razor-sharp wooden stake in one hand, a hammer in the other. There is a knock at the door. He raises the stake, ready to defend himself.
Who is it?
It's me and Amy, stupid. Open up.
Charlie opens the door and lets them in. Amy throws herself into his arms, almost dancing around the room in her joy.
Charlie, Peter Vincent said he'd come.
Sorry, I was drinking. He did?
Oh.
When?
Tomorrow at 6.
But Dandridge will be out of his coffin by then.
Relax. He's Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer. He must know what he's doing, right?
I don't know. Maybe he didn't take it seriously.
Oh, he did, Charlie. He did.
Honest?
Wow. God.
Honest.
Oh.
my God.
Then maybe we'll really have a chance to kill Dandridge tomorrow night. You don't know what it's been like knowing there's a vampire living next door and having no one believe me.
It's all right, Charlie. It's all right.
12 to Dan's house evening. Charlie, Evil Ed, and Amy stand in front of the house waiting. Dusk is slowly gathering. Charlie glances nervously at his watch. Oh, I have a special guest.
It's 6:10. He said he'd be here at 6, right?
Relax. He said he'd be here. He'll be here.
Oh, here he comes.
The kids rush to the car. Sorry, we have a rat.
Oh, hello.
What?
What was that?
Sorry,
Why?
we have a rat?
That wasn't an apology. You put it in front of the camera.
What?
What was that?
Not a rat. She's beautiful.
Atmospheric. It's atmospheric. Okay.
Go.
What?
Charlie, you're up.
Oh, Mr. Vincent, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this.
Peter gets out of the car. He wears his vampire killer regalia, the Victorian suit, and carries a box, actually. There is something truly majestic about him.
What page are we on?
40.
Oh, thank you.
No, 40.
Thank you very much. Charlie Brewster, I presume.
Okay, who told him my fucking name?
Guilty. Bad.
Are we on page 39?
Yes. Of
Yeah,
a
thank you.
printed script. page 39.
Charlie Brewster, I presume. Peter Vincent, vampire killer.
I have to start a new thing.
And now,
Yeah,
down to
same.
business. Where is the lair of this suspected creature of the night?
There.
Ah, yes. I see what you mean. There is a distinct possibility.
He opens the box, withdraws a small crystal vial of water, slips it into his jacket pocket, closes the box, and replaces it on the front seat of his car.
Well, shall we?
Where are your stakes and hammer?
I left them in my bag.
You're not going in there without them.
I have to prove he's a vampire before I kill him, Charlie.
Already.
Oh no, all he does is say my goddamn name.
Vampire.
Vampire and Charlie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
God. Ugh.
I am the one that has to know.
Oh, but
Charlie.
Sorry. So I'll drink again. I know he's a goddamn vampire.
I will pay anybody who's willing to skip Charlie's name.
How much? Because I'm the one that says it a lot too.
This,
Lord.
this is a holy one.
Charlie.
If a drop touches him, he will blister. And in this case, I asked him to drink it while we all watched. He readily agreed.
Okay, hold on. I have a real quick question. Their scheme is that they are posing as some kind of charity and they need Jerry to drink water while they watch?
No, we've just asked him to drink this.
Drink. Yeah.
Just
But
to
they were
prove
posing
it.
as a charity or something, weren't they?
No, we paid him. We paid him.
We paid him to drink water?
Yeah, we're like our friend is
Scheme right
crazy.
there.
Hey Clay,
Oh.
the filmmaker is watching, so maybe not,
no,
story.
Oh, so I should address the filmmaker. Tom, if you send me an email and explain your script to me, that would be fantastic. Thank you. That's not fair. That's fine. That's fine. No, no, great point. Thank you.
Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. It makes perfect sense.
Charlie, what do you say?
Mr. Vincent, if I'm right and you prove he's a vampire,
Oh, fuck.
He'll kill us all right then and there.
No, he won't. Charlie.
Hey.
I'm gonna skip that one.
Brilliant. Me here to protect you. After all, I am Peter Vincent.
Billy opens the door, smiling big.
Hey, Peter Vincent, Billy Cole, this is a pleasure. Won't you all come in? Come in.
They all file in, Billy greeting them as they enter.
Hello, hello. And Charlie. Hey, Jared, they're here.
Several seconds pass. Nothing happens.
Perhaps he didn't hear you.
Oh
my gosh.
He heard me all right.
Suddenly, a step creaks at the top of the stairs. Slowly, Jerry Dandridge walks down the stairs into view. He reaches the bottom of the stairs and turns to Peter with a blinding smile. He shakes Peter's hand.
Ah, Mr. Vincent. I've seen all your films and I found them very amusing.
Why, thank you.
And who might these two attractive people be?
This is Ed Thompson and Amy Peterson.
Jerry takes Amy's hand and bows to kiss it.
Charmed. Isn't that what vampires are supposed to do, Charlie?
Charlie scowls at him. The others laugh. Jerry turns to the living room.
Please, come in.
He ushers Peter into the living room, Billy following. Amy and Evil Ed stare after Jerry, both totally captivated.
He's neat.
Some vampire, Brewster.
Oh, drink.
Oh my god. Oh
Then-
my god.
Hey guys, I'm drunk.
Whiskey was a mistake.
No, it wasn't, girl. No, it wasn't.
Whiskey.
Straight
A
whiskey's
big mistake.
Whiskey was
It's-
good.
It's a mistake.
Only 30 pages to go, guys.
Oh my gosh.
I want the names and numbers and address of every Patreon person.
At least
He's going all gangster.
At least I call him Brewster.
No, it's not Twitter's fault. I have been lobbying Billy Ray to make a no proper nouns rule for years. And he refuses to do it. So this is all Billy Ray's fault.
All right.
Let's get back into it. Let's do it. We can do this. Come on.
Got it, guys.
Halfway
Go
through.
team.
Come
Go
on,
team.
guys.
The next word is vampires.
Jerry leads them into the living room.
Yes.
You'll have to excuse the mess. I'm still unpacking.
Where do you keep your coffin? Or do you have more than one?
Charlie.
It's all right, Mr. Vincent. I'm quite used to it by now. As you may or may not know, Charlie even brought the police over a few days ago.
Charlie, you didn't.
You're damn right I did. Only the cops didn't believe me any more than any of you.
Brax.
You'll believe me in a few seconds. Mr. Vincent, give him the holy water.
Don't tell him.
Charlie. There's no reason to be rude about this.
It's perfect, all right, Mr. Vincent. Where is the holy water?
He draws the vial from his pocket. Jerry eyes it warily, staring at Peter, his voice suddenly heavy with double meaning.
Are you sure that's holy water, Mr. Vincent?
Positive. I saw Father Scanlon. Blessed down at St. Mary's myself.
Jerry takes the vial from his hand, pulling the stopper and sniffing at it for the first time, nervousness creeping into his manner. Charlie sidles up to Amy, whispering in her ear as Jerry prepares to drink the water.
Get ready to run. I'll protect you with this.
He edges a cross out of his pocket, just giving her a glimpse of it. He glances up as Jerry lifts his head back and downs the contents of the vial in one swallow. He turns to Peter triumphantly.
There, satisfied?
Certainly. Charlie?
Oh my God.
You saw it.
I hate when Peter
Totally. Are you totally convinced now that Mr. Dandridge isn't a vampire?
Some test.
But it can't be.
Excuse me.
Drink!
You just saw it, Charlie.
Wow. You're right, Clay.
You have, as well as I do, you know as well as I do that no vampire could drink blessed water.
Then it wasn't blessed.
Are you calling me a liar, young man?
Charlie looks at Jerry. Jerry stares back at him, smiling. Charlie suddenly whips the cross out of his pocket and holds it up.
If he's not a vampire, then have him touch this.
Jerry stiffens, his face losing its color, but none of the others notice.
Charlie, you've already made a fool of yourself once. There's no reason to compound the error.
Yes, Charlie, you've already caused your friends quite enough pain. You don't want to cause them any more, do you?
Charlie sees Dandridge clearly to spring. Billy sliding into the place blocking the doorway to the portico. The tension level in the room is suddenly unbearable. Charlie slowly edges the cross back into his pocket.
No, of course not.
And you're finally convinced I'm not a vampire either, correct?
Yes.
Everyone smiles.
Well, I'm glad that's all settled.
Jerry leads them all toward the front door.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate this, Mr. Vincent. You've been a great help. Mr. Vincent?
Not at all.
Are you up?
Mr. Dandridge, that's the absurd.
Jerry ignores Charlie, turning to Amy and Evil Ed as Peter steps back, reaching into his coat pocket for his cigarette case.
It's been very nice meeting both of you. Please feel free to drop by anytime. You'll always be welcome.
Amy is almost hypnotized by his eyes.
I'd like that very much, Mr. Dandridge.
Please call me Jerry.
Look, sudden alarm, remembering the girl he saw through the window that night. He grabs Amy by the arm, tugging her toward the door.
Come on, let's get out of here.
Smiling, Jerry turns to Evil Ed. As behind them all, Peter opens up his cigarette case, takes out a smoke, about to tamp it down when he glances at the mirror on the inside lid. He sees Amy, Evil Ed, and Charlie grouped around where Jerry Dandridge should be standing, but he's not there. It's as though the kids are talking to thin air.
The same goes for you, Ed. I suspect we have many of the same interests, you know, in such things as horror movies and the occult.
Peter looks back down at the mirror again. No Jerry. His face goes chalk white, his mouth gasps for air, and he drops the case from his hands. It smashes to the hardwood floor with a crash. Everyone turns and looks at him.
Something wrong, Mr. Vincent?
Peter scoops up the case, trying to hide his shaking hands and keep the tremor out of his voice.
Yes.
There is something wrong?
If I could only get to the next page. There's
You're so clumsy.
incredibly wrong.
Clumsiness.
No. Yes, my clumsiness.
Are you sure?
Oh, yes. We have been taking up too much of your time. Come along. We must be going. Thank you again, Mr. Dandridge.
Cut to Dandridge's house night. Peter plunges down the walk to his car, the kids hurrying to keep up with him.
What's wrong with you?
Nothing.
He's to his car.
And why are your hands shaking?
They're not shaking.
He finally gets the door open, hurriedly sliding in behind the wheels, slamming the door behind him.
You saw something in there, didn't you? Something that convinced you he was a vampire.
Oh.
Oh shit.
He wasn't a vampire.
Wait, where?
What?
Andrew's making up lines with vampire in them to make himself drink.
No, of course not.
Okay.
Please.
You be quiet.
Mr. Vincent, you have to tell me. Our lives depend on it.
All right. He didn't cast a shadow.
Reflection, you mean?
In a reflection. He didn't cast a reflection in my mirror. Are you satisfied now?
Mr. Vincent, you have to call the police and tell them.
The engine finally catches him away in a cloud of burning rubber. Charlie watching him go, half frustrated at death.
Shit!
Evil Ed starts to walk away.
Where are you going, pencil dick?
Home!
No. No. We walk Amy home first.
Inside the house, he watches them as they head down the street.
She looks just like her, doesn't she?
Well, one good thing, they'll never believe him now.
He takes a few steps, then hears something crack beneath his shoe. He looks down to see a fragment of the broken mirror glass.
No.
Cut to City Street night. The three kids walk down the street. Evil Ed stops before the open mouth to a shadow-encrusted alleyway.
Hey, let's cut through here.
No, no way. We want people and the lights. The more, the better.
Look, Brewster, vampires don't exist. Haven't you got that through your thick head yet?
What if you're wrong, Evil? What if Dandridge is a vampire and he thinks you know it? Would you walk down that alley again?
Evil Ed gets a chill up his back, but shakes it off.
Oh, fuck you, Brewster.
Ed, please, stick with us.
Forget it. You may be chicken shit, but I'm not.
Disappears into the darkness.
What do we do?
Let him go. No vampire's gonna want him anyway. Probably give him blood poisoning.
Burn.
A blood-curdling scream echoes out of the dark. It's Evil Ed. Charlie and Amy dash into the alley after him.
Where is he?
Amy spots him lying crumpled against a wall.
Over here.
He dashed to him, kneeling by his side. Evil Ed's eyes are closed, his breathing shallow. Charlie tries to shake him awake.
Ed, are you all right? Jesus, I warned him.
Evil Ed's eyes suddenly snap open, staring up wildly at Charlie.
He got me, Charlie. He bit me. You don't know what you're gonna have to do, don't you? You know what you're gonna have. You know. You know what you're gonna have to do, don't you? Kill me, Charlie. Kill me before I turn into a vampire.
Suddenly he heaves himself at Charlie with his mouth opening, going for his throat as Charlie jerks back, terrified.
Give you a hickey!
Charlie rolling on the pavement and laughing like a maniac. Amy laughs with him.
You asshole!
You really believed me, you poor dope.
You'll get yours someday, Evil.
Yeah, when? When I'm bit by a vampire? There are no such things as vampires, fruitcake.
Oh. Chuckling to himself, turns in the opposite direction and disappears down the alleyway into the darkness. Then Jerry Dandridge steps out from a shadowy wall. He stares after Charlie and Amy and then slowly turns to stare in the opposite direction after Evil Ed. Evil walks along feeling safe and secure, and then he hears it. Footsteps behind him, coming through the dark, slowly toward him. He turns and looks back.
Charlie? Amy, is that you?
He hears nothing but the footsteps getting closer and closer.
If that's you, it's not working. I'm not scared.
And Jerry emerges from the shadows, walking towards him. Evil Ed turns and runs. He runs like he's never run before, pounding through the dark, running for his life and knowing it. Suddenly skids to the halt through the brick wall. The footsteps stop. Nothing but silence. He takes a step away from the wall, peering into the darkness, praying that maybe, just maybe, Dandridge has given up.
Hello, Edward.
Jerry standing right next to him. Dandridge walks over to him, staring down with something like pity in his eyes. Evil Ed is words.
You don't have to be afraid of me. I understand what it's like being different. Only they won't pick on you anymore or beat you up. I'll see to that. All you have to do is take my hand.
Evil Ed slowly looks up at him through his tear-stained eyes to see Jerry, his hand outstretched to him, a slight smile on his face.
Here, Edward, take my hand.
Evil Ed slowly reaches out and takes the vampire's hand. Jerry smiles and slowly leans down, lifting him up to the last embrace Edward Thompson will ever know.
Please go.
Let's mute that video.
Charlie and Amy walk rapidly along the street toward Amy's home. A death rattle, long and high-pitched, suddenly comes to them, echoing through the city's streets.
What was that?
It was just Evil messing around again. Cut it out, Evil! God, it's not funny.
Amy, what if Evil really was in trouble?
Charlie, you're not going to let him sucker you in again, are you?
Suddenly there is a loud boom and all the street lights suddenly go out, plunging them into almost total darkness.
Don't tell me it's a power outage.
What else could it be?
Hear the sound of huge flapping wings above them. They start running, leading them to a line of people waiting to get into a crowded night. Jerry turns the corner, calmly following them. They try to run again, but Jerry keeps appearing in their path, no matter which way they turn. Charlie sees an alley kitchen entrance to the club and pulls Amy into it. They jump through the doorway and into the kitchen, startling the cook.
Hey, you can't go in there. I work as a cook too.
Take their way to the loud, crowded dance club. Charlie pushes through the people dancing and finds a payphone.
Who are you calling?
The police!
Don't do that.
There's a knock at Peter's locked and barred door. He slowly rises from his chair, the cross clenched in his hand, staring at it, terrified. The knocking comes again, louder this time. Are you with us, Andrew?
What page?
51.
51.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Who is it?
Me, Evil Ed.
What do you want?
There's a vampire out here. Let me in.
Peter slips the cross into his pocket and unlocks the door. He pulls Evil Ed into the room, hurriedly locking and barring the door behind him.
What are we going to do?
What are you going to do? Not me.
Evil Ed reaches up and pulls down the collar of his shirt, revealing 2 small puncture marks on his throat. Peter's eyes widen in horror. Evil Ed's smile grows wider, revealing he now has sharp fangs.
I used to admire you, you know that? Of course, that was before I found out what a fake you were. Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer indeed.
Himself at Peter, opening his mouth wide to sink his fangs into him. Peter straightens, grabbing the cross from his pocket and thrusting it directly into Evil Ed's between his eyes. The new his hand held to his face. He drew his hand from his face, revealing a blistering sign ran to his forehead.
Yes.
What have you done to me?
Moves to attack again. Peter holds up the cross to him. Nice.
Back, I say slowly.
Sir will kill you for this. But not fast, oh no. So
Back, I say slowly.
Evil Ed snarls at him like some trapped feral animal and suddenly whirls, throwing himself headlong out the window. Explosion of shattering glass. Peter rushes to the window, staring out at the street. Nothing. He draws his head back in, leaning against the wall, gasping for breath. Cut to nightclub, night. Charlie slams the phone back down into its cradle in frustration. Amy looking at him worriedly.
Hold on. I was looking away during Liesel's makeup reveal, and that freaked me the fuck out. Andrew and Liesel, well done. Holy
Just
crap.
a little scheming. Just a little scheming.
He doesn't believe me.
I'm scared, Charlie. I'm really, really scared.
No, man. I hit the over button instead of the down button. Hold on. Gotta do a control F. 1 second.
I think technically.
Okay, I gotta grab some water. I'll be right back.
Oh my God, I just drank a whole bottle. I miss.
Here's me fucking up and drinking.
God, Clay.
All right.
Page 52 on the book.
Yeah, found it. Who are we waiting for? Oh, Liesel. Okay. He doesn't believe me.
Oh, okay. So I'm scared, Charlie. Still scared. Really scared.
I'm not gonna let him get you, Amy. I promise. You got Peter Vincent's number?
Oh, Charlie, he doesn't care about us. I paid him to be here today.
We don't have a choice, Amy. Now give me his number.
Reluctantly digs a scrap of paper out of her pocket as Charlie drops another dime. On the other side of the club, Jerry saunters in, looking sexy and right at home in the hip crowd. He stands on the upper level, surveying the room. I'm wearing a sweater very much like his. Charlie tries to call Peter, trying to block his ears from the pounding club music. Amy then sees Jerry on the dance floor. He beckons to her, and she starts to move towards him, transfixed by his gaze. He pulls her out onto the dance floor. Charlie, still on the phone, doesn't notice her leave.
You gotta help us! Jerry Dandridge has me and Amy trapped in this club downtown.
Peter, meanwhile, is completely terrified.
I'm sorry, Charlie. I just can't do that.
But you have to come, Mr. Vincent. You're the only one who knows what's going on.
Dance floor, Jerry dances seductively with Amy. She is spellbound, caught in his embrace. They dance as if no one else is around them. As he spins her, she can see that he casts no reflection in the mirrored walls, as if she was dancing alone, but she cannot resist him. Charlie realizes Amy is gone and rushes grabs Jerry by the shirt.
Let her go.
Jerry doesn't strike. Instead, he confidently turns back and kisses Amy.
You filthy son of a bitch.
Charlie throws a punch at Jerry, who grabs his hand without even breaking the kiss. He grips Charlie's hand with incredible strength, bringing him to his knees.
You shouldn't lose your temper, Charlie. It isn't polite.
You can't kill me here.
I don't want to kill you, Charlie. I want you to bring Peter Vincent to my house. Just the two of you. That is, if you ever want to see Amy again.
He tosses Charlie to the floor and pulls Amy away. Charlie charges after them.
Let her go.
Two large bouncers suddenly appear to break it up. One pulls Charlie and Amy away. The other confronts Jerry.
She's mine.
You want chicken, man? You go to some other club.
My way.
Move me.
Snarls, his eyes glow red, and his fingers extended to talons. The bouncer sees this and is suddenly scared.
Hey, Leon, get back here!
The other bouncer lets go of Charlie and Amy to rush to help, but it's too late. He screams as the talons whistle through the air, tearing out his throat in one swipe, scattering blood everywhere. I'll take a drink. Why not? Pandemonium, fuck, I should have waited. Pandemonium erupts. Fuck me. People screaming and rushing for the exit. The fear contagious. All of them streaming toward the bottleneck of the hallway leading to the front door. Jerry grabs the second bouncer by the throat, lifting him up and breaking his neck before tossing him like a rag doll to the dance floor. Close to the front door, Charlie and Amy fight their way through the madness, trying to gain to the outside, trying to gain the Okay, trying to get outside and freedom as we. Oh, God's sake. Behind them, a wave of panicked humanity sweeps toward them. They get separated by the waves of panicked people.
Amy!
And then Jerry is there. He takes Amy in his arms, smiles back at Charlie, and disappears with her. Exterior nightclub. Charlie pushes out into the street, just in time to see Jerry and Amy being driven away by Billy. Evil Ed in the back seat, pointing at Charlie and laughing maniacally. Cut to apartment night. Charlie rushes to Peter's door, knocking furiously.
Peter! Peter, open the door.
Who is it?
It's me, Charlie Brewster. Sorry, everyone. Let me in. Come on.
The door opens a crack. Good enough. A chain across the ledge. Peter peers out at him.
Are you one of them?
What are you talking about?
Peter thrusts his cross out through the crack.
Here, grab this.
Charlie does as told. Peter peers at his hand. No smoke. He hurriedly slips the chain from the door and pulls the boy inside.
Peter, we don't have very much time. Dandridge chased me and Amy all over town. He trapped us in this nightclub.
Stops as he sees Peter is packing his belongings.
What are you doing?
Leaving.
You can't.
Watch me.
But Dandridge has Amy. He says he'll kill her unless we come to his house.
Oh my God, I'll call the police. The police.
No, they won't believe you. I've tried. Peter, it's just us. I'm going to have to save Amy.
I can't. I want to be paid to be. I was.
We all do. We all do.
And now you want me to help you?
We have to save Amy. Oh, you want me to help you? Yes, yes, yes. Yes, you're Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer.
That is a character in a movie. That's not even my real name. I'm terrified. I'm sorry, Charlie, but I am.
You can't do it alone, Peter. If you don't help, Amy's going to die. And me too, probably.
I'm sorry, Charlie.
Charlie realizes he's all alone.
Yeah, me too.
Dandridge's house. Amy slowly regains consciousness, opening her eyes to find herself laying on the floor by the fireplace. She is dressed in a white flowing dress. She looks around at the paintings on the walls. One is the one Charlie knows in the living room, the one that looks like her.
She's someone I knew a long time ago.
Jerry hits play on the tape deck, funk rock, hot and driving, snakes out of the speaker. Jerry approaching her. Doesn't seem afraid.
Where am I? Where's Charlie?
Jerry removes his shirt and sits beside her. He moves in to kiss her. She kisses him back. His lips near her neck, and she pushes back. But the look in his eyes makes her fear melt away. She undoes the back of her dress, actually, letting it slip off. They kiss again passionately, and then Jerry sinks his fangs into her shoulders, sleeping up in blood.
Frank, sleeping up? Frank, wet your whistle, my guy.
Whooping? What?
Sleeping it up.
You said sleeping up the blood.
Slurp it up. Slurp it up.
Yeah.
Slurp it up.
Frank decided to type the script while drunk too.
An ominous close as Charlie approaches the Dandridge house, the crucifix hanging from his neck. He looks nervous, but also resigned to the fact that he has no choice but to the creature that drinks blood that looks human.
Frank, it doesn't count if you say it. That's fine. You can say vampire. That's okay.
I'm just maybe throwing out a hint to you guys. Suddenly, a hand reaches out and grabs his shoulder. Charlie spins with a gasp.
Peter Vincent, ready to do battle with the undead.
Charlie finds himself.
Woo, 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 woo.
He wears a Victorian suit, his whole demeanor that of his public persona, the vampire killer.
Peter, this is serious.
I am serious. Here, hold this.
Shoves a large carry box into Charlie's arms. Opening it is filled with an assortment of his movie props.
Let's see. Stake,
props.
hammer, crosses, flashlights.
What about Billy Cole? How are you going to stop him?
Peter holds up a pistol.
I'm going to use this. From Orgy of the Damned.
What if he's not human? Bullets aren't going to stop him then.
He walks around during the day, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he is human. Come on.
Peter marches toward the house with a determined expression.
Peter, look, you don't have to do this. I want to thank you.
Not now.
As they get very close to the house, Peter comes to a halt, staring up at it. Charlie stops, looking back.
What's wrong?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
They continue forward. Charlie takes a step onto the front porch and Peter grabs him, holding him back.
Are you crazy? Not through the front door? Let's go around to the back and sneak in.
The front door slowly swings open on creaking hinges, seemingly of its own accord. Peter and Charlie turn to look at it. A dark, gaping hole like an open mouth ready to swallow them.
Too late.
They move towards the door. Peter has to remind himself why he's there.
I am Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer. I am Peter Vincent, the great vampire killer.
They enter. The doors shut behind them.
This way.
Begin to walk up the grand stairs.
Did you hear something?
No.
Let's come back at dawn. And he'll be asleep then, and then we'll have a better chance of getting him.
Yeah, Amy will be dead by then too. Oh, come on.
Turns to start up the staircase again, but freezes as Jerry Dandridge steps into view on the landing. His finger cuts ribbons of wood shavings that drags along the railing. He looks down at the two and says with great flourish,
Welcome to Fright Night. For real.
And that is the drink line. I have a full drink.
Do the best you can.
Yeah. We don't enforce this.
I don't like this.
You're welcome.
It's not. No.
You're welcome.
Come on.
I like drinking, and this whole show has made me so I don't like drinking anymore. So
That's
congrats,
what we're gonna
Patreon.
That's
You
what
made
we're
me
gonna
sober.
Jonah, think about his health. What the fuck?
Never
Okay,
once.
here we go.
I made a serious attempt. I did what I could.
For real.
Where's Amy?
Up here, all you have to do is get by me.
Peter steps forward, dramatically holding.
Back, spawn of Satan.
Oh, really?
Jerry steps forward, takes the cross from Peter's hand, and crumples it contemptuously, tossing it aside, throwing it, whatever.
You have to have
Contemptuously.
Thank you.
ridiculously. You have to have faith for this to work on me, Mr. Vincent.
Jerry moves toward him menacingly, but Charlie steps between them, brandishing his small cross. Its metal shines brightly, and Jerry emits an eerie, guttural moan. He retreats, backing away.
We're gonna make it.
Suddenly steps out the darkness in front of him and viciously backhands him across the face. Charlie smashes through the stairway railing, plunging to the hallway below. He lands with a solid thud, not a regular thud, a solid thud. Jerry steps back into the light next to Billy, staring down at Peter on the stairway, smiling at him. The actor whirls, racing down the steps and out the front door. Cut to Brewster House night. Peter smashes through the front door, yelling up the stairway.
Mrs. Brewster.
No answer. He grabs the phone from the table and punches out a number, speaking hurriedly into it.
Hello, operator. Get me the police. Operator.
No response, not even a dial tone. He holds up the phone only to see the cord has been ripped from the wall. His eyes widen in horror, his gaze snapping back to the stairs.
Mrs. Brewster.
He bounds up the stairs, Judy's room night. He bursts through the door and sees Judy in bed, the back of her head to him.
Mrs. Brewster, thank God. All the phone wires have been cut.
Reaches out, turning her over on the bed to face him. Only it isn't Judy. It's Evil.
I know. I did it.
Peter is stunned.
Stunned.
Where's Charlie's mother?
Well, apparently she's working nights, but she left a note.
He pulls a crumpled note from his pocket. Peter slowly starts to back away.
His dinner's in the oven.
Whoa. He races down the hallway only to hit a table in the dark, crashing to the floor on the landing. The table splintering beneath him. He sits up, groaning, holding his leg. But suddenly, hears a growling, low, deep, and vicious, coming from the other end of the hallway. He looks up, staring into the dark. Suddenly, a huge wolf, as ugly as Evil is, tears out of the master bedroom, skidding to a halt. Peter. His eyes glow like red hot coals in the dark. Saliva drips from his skin. Peter picks up a piece of paper. Peter.
I don't see you drinking yet, Frank. There we go. There we go.
Just as the wolf launches itself into the air toward his jugular vein. And a jagged piece of wood into the animal's chest as it flies past, its snapping jaws missing his. The wolf hits the landing railing and flies through it, plunging over the side. Evil Ed smashes onto the hardwood floor below with a terrible thud. He lays there, the long wooden splinter buried into his heart. Peter hurries down the stairs, stopping above him, staring, walking in horror as he back into his eyes. Transforming into that of a normal teenage as he died.
I'm sorry.
He was staring down at him, sorrow struck by the waste and hardness of it all.
Frank, be louder.
The waste and hardness of it all. Dandridge House night. Jerry comes through the door with Charlie over his shoulder and dumps him on the floor a few feet from where Amy lies, curled up in a fetal ball.
You wanted her? There she is.
Charlie glances to his side, sees Amy lying there, and crawls to her. He gently turns her toward him. Jerry takes a fence post stake and jams it into the floor.
Here. You're gonna need it just before dawn.
What have you done to her?
Jerry just smiles and lets himself out of the room, closing the door behind him. The key can be heard turning in the lock. Charlie crawls to Amy, gently turning her over.
Amy.
She has already begun to change, her upper lip slipping back, revealing the beginnings of fangs. Her eyes are black like bottomless pits. He raises his head and screams, his voice filled with anguish and despair. No! Andrews pauses halfway down the stairs, listening to the agony in Charlie's voice as the scream dies away. He smiles and continues down the stairs. Cut to Brewster House night. With great remorse, Peter pulls the sharpened table leg out of Evil Ed's chest. Heads out the door, forcing himself to return to the Dandridge house. Dandridge House night. Peter enters, picks up his vampire killer case, and proceeds up the staircase. He hears slight crying noises coming from a nearby room. He raps on it lightly, whispering through the crack in the frame. Inside, Charlie holds the unconscious Amy in his arms.
Charlie?
Peter?
I'm going to have to break the door down. Make as much noise as you can.
Charlie turns to the wall, beating on it and yelling for all he's worth.
Ah, help me out, help, someone help.
Jerry and Billy are preparing a spare coffin for Amy. They hear Charlie yelling for help. Jerry smiles.
I think she just opened her eyes.
Peter hits the door from the outside, snapping the lock, letting himself in and closing it as quietly as he can behind them. He looks around, spotting Amy lying in the corner.
Quick. Grab her and let's get out of here.
We can't. Look.
He falls to his knees beside Amy and rolls her over for Peter to see. He is still covered with sweat and trembling even more violently now. Her upper lip slips back to reveal lengthening fangs and the beginning of red in the irises.
Oh my God.
Down in the basement, Jerry senses something is amiss.
Something wrong?
Yes. We have a visitor.
Back upstairs.
Is it too late to save her?
No. Not if we kill Dandridge before dawn.
You sure?
So far, everything has been just like in the movies. We'll have to keep on hoping. Let's go.
Outside the window, Jerry watches them grab stakes as they head out the door, leaving Amy still unconscious on the floor. Stepping out on the landing, armed with crosses and stakes, Charlie and Peter make their way to the staircase.
Well, what do we have here?
They find themselves facing Billy Cole coming up the other way. They freeze as Billy stops, a slow smile sliding across his grim features.
Vampire killers.
He starts up the steps. Peter pulls the pistol from his pocket, aiming it at Billy.
Stop or I'll shoot.
Billy just grins and keeps coming toward them.
I'm on it. I mean it. Don't make me forced to shoot.
But Billy keeps coming. As he reaches them, Peter fires the bullet, punching a deep hole through Billy's forehead. The large man freezes, his eyes rolling back into his skull. He tumbles backward down the stairs, landing with a crash at the bottom.
Crash.
Footsteps behind him. Peter and Charlie whirl, staring up at Jerry Dandridge about to attack. Charlie steps forward, thrusting his cross up at Dandridge.
Stop!
Vampire freezes, his face darkening with fury, his eyes glowing blood red. Charlie stops. Not stops. Charlie stops at the start.
What, Frank? What? Twice in a row?
I know. Peter close behind him.
Come on, we have him.
Dandridge's eyes gaze past Charlie's shoulder down into the shadows at the bottom of the stairs where Billy's body lies.
Do you?
He retreats back into Amy's room, disappearing from sight.
What did he mean by that?
Nothing. He was just bluffing.
Behind them, down at the foot of the stairs, Billy slowly sits up. He stands and starts to walk up the stairs toward them. The first step he hits groaning under his heavy weight.
Oh.
Peter slowly turns. Bullet hole in his forehead. Peter unloads the entire revolver into the man, casting a pail of gun smoke in front of them. And Charlie, obscuring their their view into the Again, they hear the creaking steps. Billy appears through the smoke, arms outstretched, murderous ghoul coming right for them. About to fling him over the railing of the floor below. But Charlie leaps forward, slamming his stake into the creature's heart. Billy and staggers back as the two watch in horror. The hope slowly begins to dissolve, skin. Bones rolling in every direction.
He wasn't human.
No. No. He certainly wasn't.
Amy.
Bedroom night. Charlie and Peter enter the bedroom. Charlie goes to Amy. Peter to the open window. He looks at them. No sign of Dandridge. But Jerry is hovering right above him, poised to tear open his throat.
Peter!
Peter turns away from the window just as Jerry is about to strike. Charlie holds Amy. She is definitely worse. The fangs longer, the eyes glowing.
She's worse. Come on, we're running out of time.
Jerry watches them through the window as they again look to find and destroy him. On the roof above, He speaks to Amy.
Amy, awake. I command you to awake.
He rises and trembles.
Now show me how much you love me, Amy. Kill them both.
At the staircase, Charlie and Peter hear noises above them. Wait, that's you, Andy.
He's going up there. He's going on the roof.
I'm going up there.
Peter begins to follow, but is stopped by the sound of Amy screaming. He runs back to the bedroom. As he enters, Amy turns around, her mouth full of sharp teeth, her eyes glowing. She snarls at him like an animal. Peter raises a crucifix at her. She recoils, giving Peter the chance to exit. On the landing, Charlie returns from the roof.
Charlie!
He's not up there.
Suddenly, Jerry appears at the window behind Peter.
Peter, behind you!
Peter whirls, holding up his cross as quickly. Oh, sorry. Okay, hold on. Peter whirls, holding up his cross, and as quickly as he appeared from the night, Jerry slips back into it.
He's going downstairs.
The sound of fists pounding comes from the bedroom doors. Peter turns just as Jerry smashes through the stained glass window on the landing. Half transformed to the bat creature, he approaches Peter. Charlie rushes to help Peter.
Stay back, Charlie.
Jerry opens his mouth, baring his fangs. Peter holds up the crucifix.
Back!
For a moment, Jerry recoils, but then begins to laugh.
You have to have faith for that to work, Mr. Vincent. Remember?
Peter continues to hold his ground, the cross held up higher, staring defiantly back at Dandridge. I'm going to need more wine. The vampire freezes, realizing indeed that Peter has recovered his faith. He stands there stymied, snarling at the man. And just then, all the clocks in the room begin to chime, indicating that it is 6 o'clock and dawn is approaching. Jerry looks panicked. Peter smiles.
You're out of time, Mr. Landridge. Look over your shoulder.
Dandridge cranes his neck to see the rare. Yeah, that thing too. Open window, the sun beginning to glint its golden rays. A tiny ray shoots through, hitting Jerry's shoulder and creating a spark. He throws himself off the landing, tucking his body into a somersault as he hurls through the air toward the portico floor below, turning into an enormous bat. The bat dives at Peter, knocking him to the floor. Peter fights back as the creature tries to sink its jaws into his neck. Charlie rushes to Peter's aid, but the bat plants its fangs into his forearm. Peter, seeing the sunlight now streaming into the room, grabs the bat's neck and hoists his head into the stream. The monster screams as its skin begins to boil. It releases Peter and flaps away towards the darkness of the basement.
Are you all right?
Yeah. Quick, he's in the basement.
Cut to basement. Charlie and Peter hurry down the stairs into the dark room, its windows covered with blackout drapes. The window? Thank you.
Almost there, guys. We're almost there.
The floor is a mass of antiques, row after row of them, many covered with dust cloths.
Quick, his coffin has to be here somewhere.
The door to the stairway creaks open behind them, lost somewhere in the dark. Peter whirls, looking back the way they had just come.
Peter?
Peter, that's you, 70.
What was that?
There's Peter. Peter?
Like Peter's
Quick,
got
his
it.
coffin
5
has to
pages,
be here
guys.
somewhere.
We're 4 pages away.
We got this. We got this.
Andrew, do you have the top of 70?
Peter, what was that?
70 isn't there. So tell me what happens on 70.
What was that?
Billy Ray, do you want to do Paul Lind as Peter on 70?
Sure.
Okay.
What was that?
Oh, God.
You keep searching. I'll check it out.
Charlie walks down the row of antiques, stopping at the foot of the stairs and staring up at the basement door above. It is partially open, allowing just a sliver of light into the darkness. Amy appears out of the darkness.
Amy? It's me.
I know.
He starts toward him seductively, but with predatory intention. Peter opens a panel to discover a hidden room where the coffins are hidden. A large, ornate coffin and a small, simpler one beside it.
Charlie, I found it!
Amy saunters closer to Charlie.
Jeez.
Don't be frightened, Charlie.
Hurry, Peter, get it open.
Peter tries opening the large coffin.
He's got it locked from the inside!
What's wrong? Don't you want me anymore?
Snarls and lunges at him. He brings up the cross and she recoils, turning her back to him.
It's not my fault, Charlie. And you promised you wouldn't let him. You promised you wouldn't let him get me. You promised.
He stares at her, guilt boiling up inside of him. He steps forward, touching her shoulder, letting the cross drop to his side.
We're at 71, Andrew, if you've got that.
Amy! She whirls around, her face transformed into a twisted, dangerous, fanged grin. She dives at him, knocking him to the floor. He tries to back away, but she has him cornered amid the antique furnitures. Peter, meanwhile, hammers furiously at Jerry's coffin, trying to bust it open. Amy again lunges at Charlie. He's running out of room. Peter gets the lock broken and opens the coffin. Jerry lies within, in his ugly bat creature visage, his eyes closed. Peter raises a stake above the vampire's heart and readies the hammer. Amy leaps upon Charlie, pinning him.
Peter!
Peter turns, momentarily distracted. In the coffin, Jerry's eyes snap open. He snarls and dogs bark and starts to rise. Peter slams the hammer down onto the stake. The creature screams, but Peter's aim was off. He missed the vampire's heart. Amy turns to see her master rise from the coffin, hissing with rage. He pulls the stake. I don't have any more food.
You said all
We're
those
so
words
close.
correctly. You did not fuck up. You did the last 15 things you said were right.
Amazing.
He pulls the stake from his shoulder and throws it across the basement, where it hits a blacked out window, sending a thin ray of light. I know, it's the last 3 pages. Into the room. Dandridge turns to Peter and attacks, throwing Peter into the cupboard. All right, that's enough. Okay. Dandridge turns to Peter and attacks, throwing Peter against the cupboard, smashing it. Charlie, seeing the stream of light from the window, rushes toward it. Amy jumps on his back, trying to stop him. Jerry is just about to kill Peter when Charlie manages to break more of the window. The golden light streaks in, hitting Jerry and burning his flesh. The vampire screams and pulls back into the shadows. Positions himself in the light where Jerry can't get to him. Amy has fallen to the floor. Charlie grabs a metal bucket and tosses it through another window, throwing even more sunlight into the room. Jerry roars and starts for him. Ah! Charlie, look out! The vampire
Top of 70. Oh, I thought he had it. Top of 72, Andrew.
Object and throws it.
Charlie, look out!
The window. Thank you. Charlie throws another. The light is surrounding Jerry now. No place to hide. He bolts toward his coffin, but Peter is ahead of him. He slams the lid down and stands between Jerry and the coffin. Jerry starts to laugh. Peter has nowhere to run. The vampire moves toward him, baring his fangs, ready to strike. Suddenly, Charlie swoops past Jerry and stands his ground next to Peter. Jerry smiles. He's got them both trapped. And then Charlie reaches behind them and jerks the black curtain off the window. The sunlight beams in, hitting Jerry Dandridge full force. He screeches as he is thrown across the room, his body bursting into flames.
Amy!
Amy tries to run to her master, but Charlie tackles her to the ground. Peter dies beside them as the room is whipped into a whirlwind of fire and smoke. Jerry writhes and shudders until finally he explodes, leaving nothing behind but the echoing scream of a soul finally going to hell. That was Tom's line. I love it. Jerry Dandridge, the vampire, is destroyed. The room is quiet again. Slowly, Peter and Charlie rise, helping Amy to her feet. Her face has returned to normal. She looks into Charlie's eyes and they embrace. Then they both turn to Peter and they all hug, relieved that the horror is over. Resolved to. Dandridge and Brewster House night. The Dandridge house is dark, a for sale sign prominently displayed on the front lawn. The house itself now seems innocuous and ordinary, free forever of the evil that once dwelt within. Brewster House next door is lit and gay, much as it was on the first night we saw it. The TV can be heard coming from the house. Charlie and Amy lay on the bed, making out like crazy. The TV turned in, that was me too again. The TV tuned into Fright Night, just as it was the first evening we met them. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fright Night Theater. They break for a moment as Peter Vincent comes up on the screen.
This is Peter Vincent, back once more with you as host of Fright Night. I thought I'd let a little rest for a little while. Right, Charlie?
He winks at the camera and Charlie and Amy smile.
Tonight, the threat that comes not from beyond the grave, but from beyond the stair as aliens begin to stalk unwary autumn camp in Mars Wants Flesh. I do not star in this.
Charlie gets up in the bed and moves to the television, turning it off. As he heads back to Amy on the bed, he glances out the window at the house next door. He stops. For a moment, there appears to be a pair of glowing red eyes peering out of the dark window. Then they are gone.
Charlie, is there something wrong?
He looks again. Darkness. He smiles.
Nothing.
He jumps back onto the bed with her and they wrap their arms around each other. In the window next door, glowing eyes reappear. They blink. A voice cuts through the darkness, laughing.
You're so cool, Brewster.
Fade to black. The end.
Oh, we got there. We finally got there at the end.
Oh my God.
Oh,
We make it through.
Wow. Thank you all for subjecting your livers to that. That was an unexpected amount of booze.
For fuck's sake, dude.
Yeah.
We did it.
See you guys at the rehab clinic.
If change this Twitter rule, guys, because that's just.
I like Clay's recommendation.
But if you guys out there have not yet donated to our charity, please do. Again, it is Black Lives Matter. You can do that by going to our website, click the donate button, or our website, scriptsgonewild.com. Click the donate button. It takes you directly to their portal. You can donate straight to them. If you want to put Scripts Gone Wild in the little message box there, that's awesome too. Please donate as much as you can, even if you stumble on this read, and like a lot of people stumble on these reads days and weeks later, you can still donate if you watch it and enjoy it. And even if you watch it and you're like, man, that was a lot of drinking and I don't like drinking, still donate. Come on.
yeah.
Enable us.
Stumbling on these reads was definitely the evening.
Yeah.
Stumbling through and stumbling on.
A couple of quick plugs coming up. We're taking a week off because we've been going nonstop for a while and we need a little bit of a break. So we'll be back on September the 9th with a reading of The Burbs.
Woo!
Yeah.
Nice.
Then September 16th, we have a reading of The Shining, which is going to be amazing.
Ooh.
And then on September 10th, we're partnering with a cool film festival called Skyline Indie Film Festival in Virginia. And so we're doing The Princess Bride with them and for them. And
Oh my God.
yeah, that one's something we're excited about. I think I can also announce now for folks who are curious that we are going to be doing Fantastic Fest again this year. They had to cancel their physical festival because of COVID. but they're going to be doing a digital version, and we're going to be doing a read for them as well. This will be our 3rd year with Fantastic Fest. And also, our final plug is starting September 1st, we are going to be launching a what we're calling the Scripts Gone Wild 501c3 fund that we've been talking about for ages and are finally doing it. This is going to be a fundraiser so that we can actually finally get our 501c3 status, which will allow us to do a lot more awesome things and, you know, makes us answerable to the government.
There is one more, Billy.
Oh, yes, Frank, tell us.
Yeah, on September 23rd, this one's going to be really unique and very special. We're going to be doing the original Planet of the Apes. Dana Gould, comedian Dana Gould, is actually sort of rewriting it a little bit for us. Kind of like what he does, if any of you have ever seen the what he does with Plan 9 from Outer Space. We're going to be doing that, and we've already got an amazing cast, and we're not done yet. But we've got Pruitt Taylor Vince, we've got Patrick Fabian from Better Call Saul is going to be joining us, and we just found out today that Janet Varney from Stand Against Evil will be joining us also. Creator of Sketchfest, actually, she's awesome. So that's going to be a really unique Scripts Gone Wild, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And we also want to thank Tom Holland and Jonathan Stark for joining us. I hope that they are smiling wherever they are right now and aren't on the phone with their attorneys.
Look, here they are. This is the whole cast.
Oh,
Wow.
that's delightful. So quick final things. So you can follow us on the socials at Scripts Gone Wild, scriptsgonewild.com. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/scriptsgonewild. Please donate to Black Lives Matter. If you haven't, please do that now. And Frank, I'll let you introduce folks one last time before we take her off.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, I got distracted.
I can actually do
Frank!
I'll actually do it. So Frank Dietz, Bo Foxworth,
Yeah.
Mr. Andrew Parks, Mr. Clay Keller, the lovely Alex Marshall Brown, the lovely Alexis Iacano, the lovely Shawn Woodward, the lovely Jonathan Goldstein, Mr. Jonah Ray, the fabulous Liesel Hanson. Thank you all so much. Wave goodbye to the folks at home.